What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and this video I want to talk about if Ghost of Tsushima has more fans, has more basically hype behind it than The Last of Us Part 2. This is never really a video before the leaks happened for Last of Us, right, that I thought I would ever have to make. I thought that, and it's absolutely, and by the way, absolutely no disrespect to Ghost of Tsushima intended by saying that, okay? Because I absolutely cannot wait for Ghost of Tsushima. To be honest with you, I still really am very excited and cannot wait for The Last of Us Part 2 as well. Now, I guess really quickly to kind of get this out in the beginning, because I know there still are some people that just don't necessarily listen. Please, no spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2 in this video. We're going to have a Last of Us Part 2 spoiler video later this week. I'm going to lay it all on the table, talk about the spoilers, talk about what's right, what's wrong, all that kind of stuff, and we can talk all about spoilers in that one, okay? But not this one, so please don't do that. But basically, this is just a general discussion on how people are looking at both of these games. Ghost of Tsushima, as I've said for the longest time, and I really, I've been it's been like tough love, basically, in Ghost of Tsushima, because I think it's got enormous potential. I think it can really get Sucker Punch back on the right side of things, right? Infamous Second Son just wasn't good enough. I didn't hate the game. I didn't think it was the worst game in the world. Even at the time, being really, besides Killzone Shadowfall, the first big PlayStation 4 exclusive game, it was solid for what it was, like the particle effects, like all the lighting, the audio, all this stuff. We had never seen something like that before, right? Because we just haven't. Shadowfall did a really good job of showing off the PS4 tech very, very early on as well. But Infamous did a really good job. It's just that character unlikable. Still kind of the generic open world, a decision-based game. The things that Infamous did that were fine back then, but it kind of got very old very, very fast and kind of got left behind very fast. So, as I've always said for Ghost of Tsushima, this is their chance basically at redemption, and I've given them every chance in the book, and I think they've honestly responded very, very well. I've loved everything we've seen, and that state of play, as I've said numerous times, like that's exactly what I wanted to see for Ghost of Tsushima. It just absolutely is, because we got to see everything. We got to see pretty much the overview of what we're going to be doing in this game, and now can the game still be bad? Oh, absolutely, but at least we know what the game is, what we're going to be doing in the game, what kind of thing, literally what activities there are, exploration, all this different kind of stuff, and as it's gone on, I don't know if more people have flocked away from left The Last of Us Part 2 and gone to Ghost of Tsushima because of the leaks of The Last of Us. I just feel like Ghost of Tsushima has definitely been picking up steam. And honestly, in my opinion, I really hope that, well, firstly, I really hope it's because they've earned it from people. That's ultimately what I'm kind of, I know it maybe is like a stupid, thing to even think, or something that just is not really worth thinking, but I really do want people, if the people that are all talking about, hey, how The Last of Us Part 2 sucks and all that stuff, and I'll get Ghost of Tsushima, I really hope they actually do it. And not in a disrespect to The Last of Us, but if they're going to support Ghost of Tsushima, I don't want it to basically be all talk, is what I'm saying. I really hope that if that is what they have said online, which we know that what people say online isn't necessarily always true to what they do in real life, right? But I do hope that actually does give, really what sucks is, The Last of Us 2, what happened to Last of Us Part 2, like at their expense, Ghost of Tsushima has done really amazing because of it. Because I feel like there's more eyes on it. People are kind of thinking, okay, well, this is now like the saving grace of the summer that it was going in. Like Last of Us Part 2 was supposed to be it, and then all of a sudden now, like, it's ruined for you, and now you have to go to Ghost of Tsushima. You know what I mean? So, like, it's weird. It's a positive thing, actually, in a sad way, for Ghost of Tsushima, because of the negativity towards The Last of Us. I still think, when all's said and done, The Last of Us Part 2 is firstly going to sell way, I can say way like 1,000 times, way more than Ghost of Tsushima. The Last of Us Part 2, and listen, again, and I've said this so many times, so if people, don't know where I stand on this, it's just because you haven't watched any of the past videos. I respect if you're not getting the game because of the leaks. I actually do understand that, and I do respect that. I know a lot of people online don't respect that. I do. I think that is very fair to think. I think you have every right to do that, and I also think that you have a right to still be excited for it and still want to get the game. Okay, I very, very much am in the middle of it, and I try to basically try and be on both people's sides. Not actually specifically to do that, but that's just where I generally stand on a lot of things actually in life. But the thing is, The Last of Us Part 2 is still going to sell. I don't know if people that are violently against The Last of Us Part 2 really have put that into consideration. I think The Last of Us Part 2 was probably on track to sell anywhere between 15 to 20 million copies. Okay, that is completely my assumption. I've not seen that number anywhere. That's literally me just saying it. With what's happened, do I think people have canceled their pre-orders? Yes, I do. I think people are very upset. I think people have flocked away from it and gone to Ghost of Tsushima. I think people have also just left it in general and just said, okay, well, I'll figure out something to buy this summer. And it may not be, it won't be The Last of Us. It may not be Ghost of Tsushima. Maybe it's something else. You know what I mean? But how much does that equate to sales? I really don't think it's going to be as big as people think. I truly don't. If the game was supposed to sell, again, let's say, and why do I say that? Well, Uncharted 4 sold 16 million copies. Okay, that's Uncharted 4's numbers. The Last of Us, combined with The Last of Us Remastered, sold over 20 million. So you look at Naughty Dog's last game, Uncharted 4, you look at how big The Last of Us has grown in this time, how much actually the first game, so I believe The Last of Us on PS3 sold like 12 or 13, and then so remastered on PS4 sold like an additional, let's say 6 to 8. So even if you have just those people, which I think a lot of those people would have gotten the sequel, and then obviously you have to imagine there's a lot more people. There's more people who have the PS4 than have the PS3. So you have to imagine that this game was very much on pace to sell 15 to 20 million, 15 million on like a bad day, right? With these leaks, does it sell 12? Does it sell 14? That's still an enormous game. Okay, that's still an absolutely enormous game. And the sad truth about Ghost of Tsushima is it just is in the lower tier from that. You look at games like Death Stranding that sells like 5 or 6 million. You look at Horizon. I mean, Horizon sold like 10. Spider-Man sold over 10 and is still growing, right? So you definitely have these different tiers. I think Ghost and even probably Infamous is more in that, I don't know, like 5 to 10 million. You know what I mean? Like that middle tier. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing bad with it. But I think that's just generally where it's slotted, is in that 5 to 10 million range. So it is interesting because I do think it is going to get helped out by The Last of Us. We may find out like maybe Ghost sells 6, 7, 8, and then The Last of Us Part 2 sells 15 or 16. I mean, that is an incredible 2 months for Sony. I mean, that just it. I know that The Last of Us may get a ton of hate, and then Ghost of Tsushima may actually just alienate. Remember, I've talked about that. I think Ghost of Tsushima actually will not appeal to everybody. I think people are going to jump into Ghost. And unlike Death Stranding, which I've talked about that comparison in the past, I think Death Stranding going in, you knew exactly what you were getting. So you either weren't going to get the game or you were. And if you got the game, you knew what you were going to get, right? And that's why the game ultimately, it didn't sell insanely well. It sold well enough, but it didn't sell insanely well. For Ghost, I think it has a broader appeal. I think a lot, I mean, it's like Assassin's Creed. It's got a lot of, I mean, they've talked about how much Red Dead and The Legend of Zelda has like impacted it. So it's got a lot going for it. But at the same time, I think when it gets down to it, I think it's going to be I do think it's actually going to be a very specific kind of game for a specific group of people that I don't know if everybody knows that going in. And honestly, I don't even know how much that's going to happen, but I do expect it. I do expect that not everybody's going to like Ghost of Tsushima. So when it comes to the discussion and the question of this video, basically, does Ghost of Tsushima have more going for it, have more people on it? I feel like you're hearing it. I feel like the vocal minority is saying it. And again, I don't mean that because ultimately, I mean, look at the channel. I cover a lot of places. I am a PlayStation guy, okay? If you want to call me a fanboy, you call me a fanboy. But I do primarily play PlayStation. I cover everything. I cover Nintendo. I cover Microsoft on the channel. I'm really up for not just any platform, but any game franchise, game genre. I'm really up for them all. But I'm not saying I don't want this to come off as I'm insulting either of these games or both of them, right? I'm really just saying I feel like the talk about how pumped people are on Ghost of Tsushima, I think basically what I'm saying is I think it's inflated. I think it's inflated kind of in the same way Death Stranding was, but maybe slightly less. Again, Death Stranding, if you, and people had said this, and we were kind of right in our prediction. I actually predicted, I believe the official numbers is Death Stranding sold over 5 million copies. I predicted weeks before Death Stranding came out that it was going to sell 5 million, that would be the number. So I actually did call that. And what we were even saying back then is look at kind of the inflation, the videos, the trailers, the hype for this game is very high, almost too high, where you know that, again, because of the game it is, and because it's not going to be a game for everybody, the people that are excited and talking about it aren't necessarily going to be the ones that are going to buy it. And that's what you saw. The game sold less than what you probably would have expected if you only went off of the internet hype. Again, it's very dangerous to only go off of what the internet says. They are wrong all the time. It's not a good reflection of the world. I mean, for a lot, not just even for gaming, for a lot of things. So when it comes to this, to kind of use that comparison, The Last of Us has the franchise going for it. Okay, it has Naughty Dog going for it. So if you walk in, and I mean, I don't know how many people still do this, but you walk into GameStop, you walk into Best Buy, but all this stuff. But really, if you're just a casual gamer that doesn't even go on YouTube, doesn't watch my videos, doesn't watch anybody's videos, you've heard of The Last of Us. Have you heard of Ghost of Tsushima? And by Last of Us, I do mean The Last of Us, not The Last of Us Part 2. You've heard of The Last of Us. So even if you maybe didn't even know that The Last of Us Part 2 was coming out, you would still be, you know what I mean? You still know where it came from. So if you do see The Last of Us Part 2, you're like, oh man, I remember that game. I remember how much everybody loved that game. I remember I loved that game. I'm getting it. So I think that basically, again, the hype, the talk about it online isn't going to be reflective of what they're going to sell, of the actual numbers. And again, I don't mean that as any, because I ultimately think both these games are going to do very well. I think people are overestimating how much the leaks are going to hurt The Last of Us. I do get it. I mean, it will. I think the leaks are ultimately probably going to result in like 1 to 2 million copies lost of The Last of Us. I do think that. So if it was going to sell, say, 17 million, I think now it sells 15. Okay, I do think it would probably go up as high as 2. I don't see the game, though, selling half as well. Like, if it was going to sell 20 million, I don't see how the leaks alienate 10 million people. I really don't. I really, really don't. So, and again, for Ghost of Tsushima, you have all these people jumping on it, but again, are they actually going to get it? Because even the state of play, there was a lot of negativity thrown at it, and a lot of people are still, and including myself, I mean, I am a little worried about Ghost of Tsushima still. I don't think it's going to be the most amazing game ever created. I think it can be really, really good, but I think there's also a possibility that it's very disappointing. I really do think that's possible. And the question is, these people jumping on it because of their hate for The Last of Us, is that going to actually result in them buying it? Is that going to result in positive things for Ghost of Tsushima? I think it will, but I don't think it will, again, as much as you would think it would if you only went based off of the internet. Okay, so just a fun, kind of different video discussing this thing. I don't know how well this is going to do. I don't know if this is going to resonate with many people, but for anybody that is watching, I thank you guys so much. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed and have that bell icon turned on, and let me know in the comments, what do you think? Do you think that The Last of Us hate is being overdone? Do you think the Ghost of Tsushima love is being overdone? Let me know your thoughts. And again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I hope to see you all on the next video.